All right, we are on week 34, and this week we are going to continue talking about design. And today's lesson, we are going to talk about value patterns. Now, we have already done a value pattern before. We maybe even have done 2 value patterns, but it is so vital to the design process that I think that it's worth spending an entire lesson on value patterns. So I have this great picture of these eggs with all of these different colors and values, and it amazes me that this can be found in nature. These colors and textures are just gorgeous in eggs. So I'm going to take my note card here, and I have divided it into 4 quadrants, and I'm going to draw the same picture of the eggs 4 different times, but each time I'm going to come up with a different value pattern. So I'm kind of trying to decide. I have my viewfinder here, but I felt like I wanted to zoom out a little bit more and get an entire egg shape. So I'm just trying to decide what composition to do here. Now, these value sketches, they do not have to take a long time. They really shouldn't take a long time. But if you spend a little bit of time on these before you start the picture, you're going to save a lot of time in the long run when you're actually adding paint to your picture. You're making some of those decisions early on. So this would be part of the plan rather than necessarily just letting go and playing and working intuitively. So I have kind of my pile of eggs here. Of course, the easiest way to see value is to just photocopy your picture, your reference photo, in black and white or grayscale. But if you don't have a photocopier handy, you can always just squint your eyes and work it out that way, which I think is a good practice to do anyways. It's going to teach you, it's going to train your eyes. But all we're going to be looking for here as we create value patterns is the darkest darks, the lightest lights, and in between that is your middle, your midtones. So we're going to really simplify this, and we're only going to come up with 3 values: light, medium, and dark. I know that we don't have charcoal in our kits, but I feel like teaching you in any other way and not using charcoal to do these is a real disservice to you, because it is definitely the easiest way to do it. And that is how I do them. So I want to show you in that way how to do these value patterns. And, but you can make them with a pencil also. I've just found that charcoal, it's just the easiest way to do this. And these should be fast. So I'm going to use charcoal in my example to you. I have a stick of charcoal, and it is very messy. Charcoal is very messy. And then I have an eraser too, which can easily remove. So in the first value pattern box, I'm going to do the values as I see them. And remember, I am not trying to create a full picture. This shouldn't take very long. I'm just trying to get the darkest darks and So each area, every area is going to be assigned a value. It's either going to be light, dark, or medium, midtones, medium. Sometimes I have to clean my eraser off on something just so I can get a good side to erase. So if my value pattern isn't successful, then I know that my picture is not going to be successful. If I don't like my value pattern, then I need to work this out before I start in on the other things. So I am not in love with this this picture. I'm not impressed with the value pattern here, which means I don't think this is going to make a great picture, which is nice to know before I spend a lot of time really working on this. So right now I'm just thinking, how can I make it better? Is there anything I can do to make it more interesting? And so you'll notice I have my darks, my medium, and my light. And so every single area has been assigned a value there. All right, so I've seen what we can do here. Now I'm going to try something different on the next one. So I think for this next one, I'm going to do this whole area dark, even though that's not what I see in the picture. That's the decision that I'm making. That's my artistic license to step away from the picture and branch out here. Maybe this time I'm just gonna do this egg middle and this egg middle, medium tone, and these ones I'm gonna leave light. So these value patterns, I want to make them as simple as possible. I do not want to get caught up in details. So even though there's spots on this egg that are darker than the egg, I'm not going to draw those details in. I want to only see the bare minimum. I want to simplify it as much as possible so that it's readable as eggs. I want you to be able to know from far away that I just created a picture with eggs, but that it's clear enough that from far away you can tell what it is. I don't know what the right word for that is. I said readable. I feel like I made that word up. I don't know if readable is a word. So I'm already liking this design better here. I guess you could say legible, but legible is literally being able to read something like handwriting. So I don't know if that really works. I don't know. I did smear some charcoal, so I'm just cleaning it up a little. Okay, I like that better. I do. So maybe since I have a medium and a dark, maybe this one I'm gonna leave white, and I'm gonna do the eggs with a little more value. So this one, I let more of the picture be lighter. And I think that that's really important in the artwork, is to pick a dominant value. So pick, if you want the dark to be the dominant value, use it the most. And if you want the picture to be lighter, then choose that. So I would call that a high key painting or picture if I let the light color dominate. Whereas this one's a low key painting because the dark is definitely ruling that picture. That it's the dominant value. It's mostly dark there. So let's see, what else do I want to try here? I really recommend taking a picture and doing several different value patterns with your picture, because one, it teaches you that there's so many options, and it teaches you to be your own creator, be your own designer. You make the design decisions. It's good practice to get the values in your sketchbook or on the page, and to really know and see and make those decisions. This is art, it's visual, so you have to make your decisions, your visual decisions. And you can't make those visual decisions in your head. You've got to put them down on paper. You have to see them. as I look back, as I'm standing back from this, I'm trying to decide which one of these I find most interesting and compelling, and which one, as I look back, is the most legible. We're gonna go with that since I know that's a word. A word on charcoal, this stuff does not ever like set up, so it will always come off on you if you touch it with your fingers. So in order to prevent that, you can spray a little bit of aerosol hairspray on it, but just know that it will smudge. It will continue to smudge, so just be aware of that. And I just use my baby wipes that I keep in my art room next to me, because I am always making a mess of my hands, and just wiping it off. It comes off really easily. So to me, this one reads the easiest, but I think this one is more interesting. It has a more interesting value pattern, and so I'm gonna go with what I think is more interesting, but I'm going to keep in mind and try to incorporate so that this one reads better when I do it on my actual piece. I'm going to use my colors that I've been using for the last few weeks, but I am going to paint out and make sure that I know which ones are the darkest and which ones are the lightest. I am going to figure out which values they are, so that when I paint, I'm not necessarily trying to paint in these colors. I'm going to paint according to the value. All right, I've taken the liberty to sketch this out so that you don't have to watch me sketch it, but I did want to talk to you a little bit about design, since that is our focus for the next 7 weeks now. And so what I want you to know is I've repeated these shapes, which are great. I mean, in the picture, they're all eggs, and so naturally I would repeat the shape, but I also tried to come off the edge. And I think it's really important in your design that you use the whole space and that you come off the edge of at least 2 edges, but here I've come off 3 edges. So repetition, coming off the edge and using the whole space, and also changing the variety, creating variety by changing it so that it's not all exactly the same, is also going to help. So I have a big egg here, but then I have, even though they're all eggs, the angle of this one makes it smaller. So I'm changing up the size. I always like to try to get mama shapes, papa shapes, and baby shapes in my pictures. I'm aware of the edge. I'm bringing it off the page. I'm not lining things up necessarily vertically or horizontally, because this is an organic picture. And one thing that might bother me in this, so I'm going to be aware of it, is I don't want this negative space to be too similar to the positive space. So I don't want to cut my picture in half here. So it is a little bit, it's a little bit smaller, this area, but I might add some value shadows just to make it really distinct that this is not the same size as this. So those are just a couple of design tips on this. Now I'm going to get my colors out. I'm going to order them from darkest to lightest, and then that's how I'm going to add the colors to this. I'm not even going to really refer back to the reference photo as much as I'm going to refer to my value pattern cheat sheet here. Okay, so here we are with the picture. I have gone and painted a swatch of each of the colors, and I can kind of tell which ones have the darkest values and which ones are medium values, and then the lightest values here. They're not in exact order. I would probably put that one here if I was doing them in exact order of their shades. But I have a good idea. So then I've taken and I've starting with the dark areas. I've painted the darkest areas, darkest value pattern here. This is the one that I chose to do. And then then I painted the medium values and the light values. And I'm gonna go over it one more time with a flat brush. And I'm gonna try to be really deliberate about my marks here. I like to block in the colors. Now I feel like it's an opportunity to focus on the brush strokes because I feel like I have a really good value pattern here. I always start with the darkest colors first when I'm painting because I feel like the paper's usually already white, so it already has the lightest value on it, and I want to get a really good range of values, so then I start with the darkest. That's just how I paint. So if I want it to blend a little better, I can move up and down. I can even zigzag a little and then smooth it out here. And what I'm actually doing with my flat brush is I am loading one side with the darker color and one side with the lighter color, and blending like that. I like having the value pattern down. It makes it so that I can be a lot more confident in my brush strokes and know exactly where the change in value happens. So blocking in the colors and knowing my value pattern really helps me to paint more confidently.